Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to Money in the Morning. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. So good to see all of you. In case you don't know, Money in the Morning is where we get together every morning and we practice the art of economic elevation. We are part of the B1 culture. B1 means Black First. Black First means that we put our families at the top of our priority list. We put our community at the top of our priority list. If we don't solve our problems, then nobody will. If you don't agree with that, then that's okay. But this may not be the place for you. I believe that we can do anything we put our minds to. I believe we have to educate our own children, create our own jobs, and support Black-owned businesses. That's what's going to be required for us to win in the future. All right, so I hope everybody's doing well. So as we start. First off, I want to say it was amazing to see all of you that came to the Economic Elevation Summit this weekend. We had a great time, and there was a lot of amazing networking. I met some millionaires in the room, some really solid, intelligent Black people. I mean, I'm telling you, you guys have no idea about the amazing things that you all are doing. People in this room, literally in this space in your community that are doing these things. You know, they're not like the loud, obnoxious rappers on TV. They're not the clowns on reality television. They're not the goofy influencers. These are people that are working hard every day. I met a sister who was a professor at Hampton for pharmacy. She's a pharmacist. In case you don't know, you got to be real smart to be a pharmacist. I met another brother at the convention who, or at the summit, who said he had a PhD in computer science. I met Bays I think Bays was out of Chicago, who is doing commercial real estate development. I met I met a family that they had five kids. One graduated from Stanford. The other one of them was training for the Olympics, and their third child is in the NFL. I met another family, the Bings, who'd been married 31 years and I think they had five children that were all doing quite well. I saw mother-daughter combinations. I saw father-son combinations. I saw mother-daughter, father-son combos. I saw entire families show up and work together to build a 100-year plan for their family. Constance Carter brought her all of her kids, and they all look just like her. And they were all, and I talked to the sons, and they were all hyped up afterward and ready to get together as a family. Her son actually owns tens of thousands of dollars in stock, and he's only 20 years old. And he started investing when he was about 11 or 12. So these are the types of people that are in your circle. These are the people that are around you. And I didn't even go into all the other business owners and investors and Jermaine, who is his daughter's a track star at UCLA, and he's making thousands of dollars every week selling stock options. And he brought his fiance. There was Errol and his fiance. I see them all the time. Errol, I don't know. I don't want to count Errol's money, but I know Errol is doing a lot with stock options and doing very well because of it. And he told his story about getting off the corporate plantation and how he was able to achieve what he called the singularity, where he was making more money in his investments than he was making on his job. And so I just want to congratulate all of you that are making progress. Every time I hear your story and you're telling me where you're going and how you got there and where you're going to go next, that's really inspiring to me because I don't want I didn't start doing all this so I could be famous. I'm not really trying to be Instagram famous. You know, I have a few million followers, but I'm not trying to do that. What I'm really trying to do is make a difference. You know, like I really want to see a solution. Right? I'm a mathematician, and in mathematics, you have to solve problems. You can't pretend to solve a problem and claim to solve it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like you can't just say, "Well, we whined about it and we marched about it and we prayed to white Jesus about it and we asked the good Lord to fix it and we went to the white folks and begged them to be nicer to us and then we went to the government and we talked to the Democrats and the Democratic Party said they're gonna come save us and then we went to the Republicans and I don't like all that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just feel like, look, if we ain't trying to really do something serious, then let me go back to sleep. I want to sleep in. It's a Sunday. There's football on later on this afternoon. I think that they have a new football league out. So I could sleep in and watch football, man. I ain't got time. And I'm telling you, I hope you agree with me. I don't have time to sit around and just get outraged every day and do nothing about it. I don't know if y'all know the difference. Like I just don't really want to. I think as Black people, we got to stop this nonsense. I don't want to sit around and get my blood pressure up and my cortisol levels high and you know, I'm angry, I'm mad because they keeps doing it to us. Well, if you ain't gonna do nothing about it, then sit your punk ass down. Just sit down and be quiet. If you ain't making a move, then just go back to bed, man. Just you know. Go eat some chitlins or something. Go get you some malt liquor and some liquor and weed and just whatever. Like just go do what you sit around and do nothing, right? Like I just really think that if we're not trying to build and really trying to make our people better, make our community better, then what's there to talk about, right? And so what we did this weekend was we got together and we made action plans. It was a very active weekend. We came to Miami. The hotel was beautiful. It was the Intercontinental Hotel. It was very luxurious, very black excellency. It felt very comfortable, you felt fancy. And we sat in the room and we made a 100-year plan for our families. And we were dead freaking serious. We were as serious about the 100-year plan for our families as we are about that job that you have. We're real, think about this. Look how serious we are about our jobs. But I don't think we're serious about our families as we are about our jobs. You're real serious about a black job, but you're not real serious about black wealth because you believe your black job is real. Your black wealth seems like a fantasy. It seems false. Well, you know what a fantasy is? You know what a real fantasy is? A real fantasy is that your son should invest all his time into getting to the NBA. That's a fantasy. That doesn't happen for 99.9% of those little boys that try to get to the NBA. A fantasy is that I'm going to be like Diddy and one day be like the biggest rap star in the world and go make a whole bunch of money. No, that's not a reality. That's a fantasy. The reality is you end up with Fed charges and child support payments and and a lost record deal and struggling and going broke. That's the reality. So I think it's time for us to get real. When we talk about keeping it real, what does that mean for you? Keeping it real means keeping it real honest, moving forth with a real effort. It means having a real strategy. Are you going to keep it real or are you going to just keep on whining and complaining and moaning and screaming about unfairness and how white people aren't treating us right and all these other things? So anyway, that's it. And some of you joined online and I did see you as well. So it was great to see you all. We had so much fun. We're probably going to do something like this again. I'm thinking Atlanta just because it seems like a lot of you wouldn't have a tough time getting to Atlanta, but I really encourage you to get in the room because there's a difference. Like I was doing business with people in the room. There was a brother who came in. He had a product. Let me show you. He brought this. Y'all can't see it. I can't show it to you because I got a little Zoom background up. But he made this whole crossword puzzle, Black Wealth crossword, like book of Black Wealth related crossword puzzles that he wanted me to see. And I never would have seen it if he'd mailed it to me or just emailed me about it. He took the time to develop the product and bring it right to me. And I saw it and I said, okay, let's do business. Let's make a deal. We made a deal on the spot. So this is the kind of stuff that moves the needle forward. With Bays, I made a deal with Bays on the spot. We talked about something we're going to do in Atlanta. We want to do the B1 Awards. We want to have an award show in honor of Dr. Claude Anderson and honor all the people in the community that are doing real work. And so, because we're not going to be able to do the B1 ball at the convention this year, because Dr. Ken Harris's team is going to have their own ball, but it's still Black excellence all the way around. But we wanted to do the B1 award. So, long story short, you get together and you make deals. You get together and you make friends. You get together and you make history. You get together and you make wealth. Do you understand? You have to make wealth the same way you make chocolate cake. You make wealth the same way you bake a chicken. You make wealth the same way you make anything else. Same way you make a car in a factory. We've got to make Black excellence. Are we going to manufacture this or not? I'm sorry, I don't mean to wake you all up for yelling at you on a Sunday, but that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm feeling that I'm tired of the fake. I'm tired of just I can't sit around. I'm 53. I don't want to sit around and get outraged every time you tell me about something that they did to us and you ain't got a plan. You ain't talking about doing nothing. Then don't. Then you should be sitting around not saying nothing, right? So don't talk unless you want to follow that up with action. Action is what is necessary. Now let me get back into it. Let me jump back in. And by the way, if you want to see a recording of the Economic Elevation Summit, you can go to economicelevationsummit.com. I think that the link should be there to actually let me see. I think so. I think the link should be there to watch the recording. No, the recording is not at economicelevationsummit.com. I'll just text it out to you. So make sure you text the word morning to the number 87948. You'll also get free access to this class. So text morning to 87948. All right, so let me tell you all about something that was on my mind today involving credit scores. Credit scores, we talked about it a little bit last week, and I felt like this was a conversation I wanted to continue. And as I move forward, I want to also say Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. In fact, let me stop before I start talking about credit scores because I think mothers are just so sacred and so important. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to every mother out here. I want to say thank you for carrying us in your bodies for 9 months. Thank you for choosing to give us life instead of going down to the clinic and deleting us. Thank you for those of you that had to endure that long cut down your stomach they make for the C-section. Thank you to those of you who dealt with us when we were acting crazy as teenagers. Thank you to the mothers who dealt with the extreme pain of giving birth to a child. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And the thank you is emotional for me because this is my first Mother's Day ever without a mother. I woke up this morning and I said, "Oh my God, it's Mother's Day and I don't have a mother," and that's very sad for me and it's very hard for me. However, I also have a wife and she's a mother, and so she's to be honored. I have a daughter who's a mother and she's to be honored. I have other people that I care about that are mothers, and including you. And I want to say Happy Mother's Day to you. Happy Mother's Day to your mother. Happy Mother's Day to your wife, your girlfriend. Happy Mother's Day to your daughter. Happy Mother's Day to your sister. Happy Mother's Day to every woman in here that's really holding it down for our community. Because without you, we don't exist. There is nothing more important than what you gave us. So anyway, with that said, now let's talk about credit scores. All right. So so here's the thing about credit scores. It just kind of popped in my brain. And one of the things I wanted to, the reason I wanted to bring this back up again is because I think sometimes we conflate or we confuse wealth building with good credit, even though they're related. They are certainly related, without a doubt. Credit scores matter; they're very important. But having a good credit score is kind of a stepping stone to the wealth building process. Good credit can be used as a vehicle to build wealth, 100%. It's also a good pathway to destroy your wealth if you overuse the credit, right? Because credit card debt in America is about $1.1 trillion dollars and it's growing every year. It's higher than it's ever been. So for a lot of people, having good credit has actually been worse for them than it's been better for them. One thing about a credit score, though, that's really important to understand is you cannot pass a good credit score to your children. Your children, when you die, when you're in your casket, there's not a person from the credit bureau who's going to come in and say, well, your mama had an 840 credit score, so you get the 840 credit score. She put that in her will. That's what you're going to get. And I want to encourage you to just understand that when you're talking about the wealth building process, credit is a piece of that. Credit can help that. But actually, a lot of times the people who are the best at building wealth don't even need a good credit score because they have plenty of assets that they can use to purchase whatever they want. I met a guy this weekend in Miami who told me about the 7 boats he owned, and he said, I don't own a nickel on any of them. So if he wants to get another boat, he doesn't need to go and worry about his FICO score. He just shows his assets, and they'll either loan him the money or he'll use money that he has. So a few things you should know about credit scores. This is a study according to bankrate.com. This tripped me out. I didn't know this was true. How many of y'all knew this? That the average American with a 700 credit score has less than $1,000 in their savings account. Did y'all know that? That literally the average 700 credit score person has less than $1,000 in their bank account. So what has occurred, unfortunately, is maybe they see their credit score as their emergency savings plan. That if I need money, I can just go and stack up the credit card and that's my protection. I think that's a little bit risky because you don't know what these banks are going to do. You don't know what's going to happen with the economy. The banks will decide, hey, that credit line we gave you and we know that it's been there for a while, but we decided we're going to just cut it, and they might cut it for no reason. And that's what systems do. I told you all about I've lost 2.2 million followers on Facebook in the last decade. I lost 660,000 in 2015. I lost another about 1.2 million in 2022, and then I lost recently and lost another 1.2 million. And the only thing that saved us was that we always planned for that. I always planned for the fact that when you talk pro-black, people misinterpret that as racism, even though I don't have a racist bone in my body. I don't dislike white people. I don't have time to hate nobody. Hate is an energy that I don't want to waste. And but we've continued smoothly because I've always had a plan B in place. I've always had a backup, and I never believed. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are systems that we sometimes can't get rid of, but if I can avoid my dependence on one particular system, I do. And so it's just, for example, when I tell you all something that maybe you haven't heard before, is that there's really no such thing as job security. There's no such thing as job security. At least if you only have one job, there's no such thing as job security because if the person who has secured your job decides to become insecure and they decide to not give you security anymore, then you're suddenly in a very vulnerable, very difficult situation. Security comes through diversification. Remember, I studied risk management in my PhD program. I think about risk in a very deep, very theoretical way. I think about risk the way you think about quantum computers. The way quantum computers operate is they literally operate in multiple dimensions at the same time. They live in parallel universes at once. So risk is the same way. With risk, you have to imagine, okay, what happens if what happens if I'm in this universe? What happens if I'm in that universe? What happens if I'm there? What happens if this goes bad? What happens if that goes bad? What happens if they take this away? What happens if they do this? Right? And you live in all those different spaces and you find ways to protect yourself in all those different realities. So what I would say to you is that there is no job security if you've only got one job. Don't let anybody talk you out of that. That's just not true. You're secure if you have diversification. That means you have multiple assets in multiple places, spread out as much as possible, disconnected, what they call uncorrelated, so that if something goes wrong over here, you're going to be okay over there. If something goes wrong over there, you're okay over here. Do you follow me? Give me a yes if you get what I'm saying. Okay, so if you have that 700 credit score and only $1,000 in the bank, and you don't have other streams of income or other assets, then you probably want to fix that, and you want to pass this information down to your children. Number two, wealth. Remember, wealth is wealth is measured in assets, not access to loans. Even though access to capital is important, that's not wealth. And in fact, actually, the median black family only has 15% of the wealth of a median white family as of 2023, and that's even when your income and credit scores are the same. So the reality is that we don't need more debt. We need more land. Right? We don't need more credit cards. We need more stock. Um, we don't need to borrow more money. We need to make more money. We need to have more wealth. We need to have more assets. Okay. Also, when you talk about credit scores, remember, number one, not only can you not pass a credit score down to your children, but number two, 70% of all black families have no estate plan, according to caring.com in 2023. They did a study on that. That's insane. 70% of all black families believe they're not going to die, apparently, or they just think that it can't happen to them. Even though y'all die more than anybody else, we die more than anybody else. We die, we die from things that are preventable, like like someone like old diabetes and gunshot wounds and so the crazy thing is it's weird that the people who die the most are the ones who are deluded into thinking that they can't die. That's insanity. You're not a vampire. You're going to die, and it's not a sad thing if you unless you make it a sad thing. But it's a real thing, right? I don't. Not one of you has a single relative who was alive in 1899 who is still alive today. Every one of them died. Every single one of them, right? The whole genocide. Every single person, all the millions of people on Earth in 1899 are now in heaven. So, what I would say to you is that estate plan is essential. I would encourage you to really think about the estate plan not so much as a death thing. I would think of it more so as a life thing, right? By me preparing for the future that after I'm gone, I get to live forever. I get my impact gets to stay forever. I get a chance to be present in my family forever because I'm energy. I'm not just, and the physicists confirm this. They confirm this that matter and energy are kind of the same thing. And if you've studied things like quantum mechanics and stuff really closely, it's really trippy because they're like, wait, we're all these bottles of of energy that goes into all these different states, and they don't understand it. They can't, and that's because there are some who believe that our consciousness is part of a collective consciousness and that the human body is only a transmitter of something very deeper, that there's a collective consciousness where the body is just something that is there, that is like a radio signal that picks up your consciousness signal from another space, and you're manifesting that now. And then when your body stops working, your consciousness sinks back into the collective. Now, I know that's way too much for y'all on a Sunday morning, but what the hell, man? It's Sunday. It's church day. We all spiritual up in here. Even if you ain't religious, I encourage you to consider being spiritual. Even if you don't go to church, I'm gonna tell you, some of these churches, I ain't never stepping foot in your church because I know y'all ain't doing nothing but worshiping the devil with all that nonsense going on in your churches. But some of y'all got good churches, like the Daylight Christian Center, where I'm speaking in Detroit this week on Thursday night. They're doing a marriage conference. The Daylight Christian Center seems like a great church. I met the pastor, Dr. Talley. I brought him in here, and they're teaching economics to their people. They're not just teaching economics; they're teaching mental health. They're teaching their people how to have healthy relationships. And what they're really doing is they're giving spiritual guidance to their people because a lot of us feel spiritually dead because things are so hard, right? I mean, being broke all the time kills your spirit. I don't know if anybody else knows that, but it does. Having bad relationships kills your spirit. Fighting with your partner all the time, that's a spirit killer. It's a downer. You know, mental health issues is a spirit killer. Physical, getting sick, cancer, diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, those are spirit killers. So when you have these pastors that are wise enough to say, not only am I going to talk to you about the Bible, which is a book full of just all kinds of wisdom, I'm also going to elevate your spirit by helping you in three key areas: health, wealth, and relationships, so that while your consciousness is connected to this planet, you're able to have spiritual elevation, spiritual upliftment. Spirit is everything. I mean, spirit just gives you the energy to do the things you want to do. I could not talk to you if I didn't have a spiritual commitment to what I'm doing, a spiritual connection to this. If my spirit was low and dead and flat, my self-esteem would be low, dead, and flat. And if my self-esteem and my energy are low, dead, and flat, then I'm not getting up every single morning and talking to you about finances. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sleep. I'm gonna give up, right? So work on that spirit and make your life into what you deserve it to be. And then also, if you really want to do something special, do that. Commit to doing that for others. Commit to doing that for others. There's so many lost souls in the world that can really use your guidance and your mentorship and your love and your support and your encouragement. Encourage each other. Carry that with you. That's a form of wealth. That's a form of wealth because when I push you spiritually and you get clarity and you get confidence and you start to feel excited about what the world has to offer, the fact that you live in the richest country in the world, then what I'm doing is I'm creating wealth because suddenly you can see the opportunity, you can see the wealth, you can see the possibility. Do you understand? And then when you see it at that point, though, that must shift into a form of discipline, and this is the part that we got to work on. It has to shift into a form of discipline to say, what am I going to do every single day that's going to get me closer to that thing that I want to accomplish? Right? Wealth ain't nothing but an accumulation process. All wealth is doing the same thing over and over and over again, piling stuff up. Rich people, the only difference in a rich man and a poor man is that the rich man has a bunch of stuff and the poor man does not. So how do you become the rich man? Well, typically you just basically do the same thing. You compile, you add up, you build it up, and next thing you know, you have a bunch of stuff. Okay. Like just like building a shoe collection. I build a shoe collection by buying a pair of shoes every other week. Next thing you know, I got 4,000 pairs of shoes in my closet. Same thing is true when you talk about building a money collection or building a real estate collection or building a stock collection. So the question I'm going to ask you is not, do you plan to get rich one day? I want to ask you is, do you plan to act like you're rich this week? Like, do you plan this week to go buy some stock? Do you plan this week to have a family business meeting and talk to your family about your next money move? Do you have a plan this week to go do something on a daily basis that's going to get you a little bit closer to your goal? What are you learning? What are you doing? Right? The accumulation process is real, is very, very important. Now, one more thing about credit cards that you got to be really careful about is that credit cards and credit scores are really designed for the banks. They're not really designed to favor you. And so really just know that they're going to use you. If you're in the banking system and all that, they're going to use you. They're going to use you. They're going to use you. And that's not always a terrible thing, as long as you're using them. Um, if you're using them and they're using you, then that's good. That's trade. That's what trade is. Trade is I use you, you use me. In fact, if you want to trade with somebody, then you say, "Hey, use me. Let me." When I met Dr. Cornell West for the first time, I kid you not, first thing he said on the phone was he said, "Use me." He said, "Use my name. If you got to use my name to get anything done, use it." And that was a really honorable thing for a man to say. This was back when I was in the faculty of Syracuse. Not a lot of people knew who I was at that time, and I thought that was incredibly gracious because I needed help, right? And I didn't get a lot of help. As a younger black man, I didn't really get a lot of people that really stepped out and really supported what I was doing. I had a couple though that made a difference. Another one was Dr. Tommy Whitler, who's at DePaul University, and W.C. Benton, who was at Ohio State for a very long time. I don't know if he's still there, but he was a wonderful man. And so that little bit that you do for others makes a big difference, but also it's okay to do things for others and expect something in return. An investment is typically better than charity. We've talked about this in class, so I don't won't belabor the point, but I encourage you to find people that you can trade with. Every single study in economics known to man says that one of the key directives of wealth, one of the key ways to build wealth is through trade. Trade is one of the most important words in the entire economic system. When Donald Trump issues a bunch of tariffs and restricts trade, you saw how the global economy instantaneously lost about $4 trillion in wealth. Wealth disappeared because he restricted trade. He instead of approaching the world like this, he approached the world like this, right? And the same thing is true with love. If I approach the world like this, like, hey, let me give you a hug, let me love you, then I'm creating more love in the world. But if I approach the world like this, like I'm scared, I'm traumatized, I don't trust you, well, then there's less love in the world. You understand? So the same economics is love. They're connected actually. The same way you talk about building a healthy relationship is exactly what you talk about when you talk about building a healthy economy. It's always built on trust. It's built on reciprocity. It's built on people understanding the necessity for give and take. You know, they you might even call it quid pro quo, even though that sounds like a cold way to describe it, but it's not cold at all. It just says, hey, look, I need help. You need help. I'm willing to help you. I'm investing in you. I'm making an emotional investment in you, a financial investment in you, because I'm gonna need you to invest back. Do you understand? Reciprocity, right? And so when we held the Economic Elevation Summit this weekend, the goal was to get people in the room so there would become reciprocity. And if you were in the room, if you've ever been to any of our events, like you came to the All Black National Convention or anything, the biggest thing you'll notice, the biggest thing I'm proud of, is that when you walk in the room, you feel love. You feel good people. There ain't nobody in there being ratchet. Ain't nobody in there being hurtful. Ain't nobody in there doing terrible things to other people, being nasty and negative. It's everybody there is like, hey, I could use help, but I'm willing to help you, so you can help me, and we can help each other. And they walk away with lifelong friendships, and that's why we do our events. We do not do our events as a business, as a pure business thing, because events are expensive. They're very expensive. This Miami event was very, very expensive for the company. That's why we can't do everything for free, because we don't take money from the government. We don't take money from corporations. I don't want them interfering with what we're doing. In fact, one of the other things, just thinking about that, is people are starting to learn the importance of minimizing outside influence if you're trying to build a sacred space or a pure economy. Burkina Faso is doing a lot of that right now. You saw China did that. That's how China rose economically. They minimize outside influence. You saw the movie Sinners, where that was all about minimizing outside influence, no matter how tempted you are to do that. And so when we started the Black Business School in the very beginning, from the very beginning, from day one, I said I want to minimize outside influence. That means we can't take outside money. So I don't take money from corporations or the government. I said if we can't build it on our own, then we shouldn't we ain't ready for that yet, right? You have to minimize that, because unfortunately, when you bring in influence from I say lesser spirits, or those who don't have the same incentives that you do, then you end up getting distracted, diluted, and distorted. And this is what's happened to the Black community. This is why you have so many Black people who have to really be convinced to even care about the Black community. So integration, I don't think integration was the friend of Black men and women. I really don't. But then again, maybe that sounds too radical for some of you. I know it takes time to adjust to these ideas, and I respect that. All right. So if you want to take a look at what was going on with the Economic Elevation Summit, we decided while we were there to do a follow-up and create something called the Economic Elevation Circle, which would be open for those of you that want to connect online, connect digitally, in a space where the goal is to discuss strategy, accountability, and legacy. The centerpiece will be the 100-year plan for your family. So if you want to take a look at the Economic Elevation Circle, you can go to economicelevationcircle.com. There's a monthly fee and there's an annual fee. And actually, you can get 40% off the monthly fee if you use the word morning. Use the word morning if you sign up. It's economicelevationcircle.com. And somebody could type that in the chat for John Trey. I'd appreciate it. Economicelevationcircle.com. And the discount code is morning. So we're going to do a meeting. We'll meet once a month. And what I'm encouraging every family to do is and remember, family isn't just people you're related to. You don't have to be related to somebody for them to be your relative. You just have to care about each other on a certain level. And so we're asking every family to have a logo, like a family crest. Like you have well, our family crest might be that panther, that Black Business School panther. And my family isn't just my wife and my children. That's one of my families. My family is also you. My family is the Black Business School, right? I have a whole board and it's in my estate plan. I spent tons of time with the attorneys laying out a structured plan in my trust where a big percentage of my assets are going to go to the Black Business School because I need this institution to be here for 400 or 500 years. So I had to leave very clear instructions. And ultimately, things become as serious and as real as you make them. So I encourage you, like if you have a family and or friends or people that come together and you form a family with them, then get a little logo and then get incorporated and really have a plan. Like sit down and have Q&As with each other and talk to each other about what you're doing business wise and stuff like that so that you can make something that becomes very real. Sick and tired. I'm gonna tell you, I'm sick and tired of the way we treat ourselves in such a racist fashion. I'm sick and tired of the fact that y'all will respect the hell out of what a white man built, but you can't respect what you built. I'm not even talking about respecting what a black man built. I'm talking about yourself. Like you'll build your own family business and you'll see it as a joke, so you won't pour time into it or energy into it. But if some corporation tells you to show up to work every day, you literally, if you add up the number of hours you spend working to build their business, if you do 40 hours a week, that's 2,000 hours a year. Over a decade, that's 20,000 hours in a decade. That's 100,000 hours over a full working career. And I want you to tell me any black family business, how often you see black people say, I'm going to put 100,000 hours into building something for my family. And all five of us are going to put 100,000 hours. We're going to put 500,000 hours of labor into making this thing into something amazing and extraordinary. You can't fail. If you have five people put in full-time energy into building something, you're going to build something. It may not be what you think it's going to be, but it's going to be something. It's definitely going to be more than what it would have been if you sat there and ignored it and neglected it and walked away from it so you could go to work every day. They got you renting your life. You're literally renting out your life so much that you don't own any piece of it. You're giving it all, you're selling it to somebody else because you're like, my life don't matter, my legacy don't matter, but your legacy matters. So I'm gonna go work for Carnival Cruise Lines, build their legacy. I'm gonna go work for Levi's Strauss Blue Jeans and build their. I'm gonna go work for Ford Motor Company, build the Ford family legacy. But what about yours? What about your family? Where does that go? That's gonna die. Anything that you don't feed is gonna die. It's not gonna live, right? So I'm simply just saying to you, what are you doing? Like, what are we doing? What do we think? How are we processing these things? And who lied to us and told us that this was the appropriate way to live life? You're not supposed to give all your time and energy to something where you don't get the benefit. That doesn't make any sense. So, that's it. That's my rant on that topic. I'm gonna stop. All right. So let's see. If you have a question, you can put a question in the Q&A section. Make it short. If you have a question about stock options or anything like that, you can go to our options class, which is drboyceprime.com. We're going to do an options session soon. So nothing specific like that. We can do that in the appropriate time. So Dr. Boyce Prime is where we do options. So feel free to put a question in the Q&A section, and I will answer your question for you. And we talked about our trip to Ghana that we're doing this summer. So if you want to go to Ghana with us, you can go to b1voyages.com. That's B, the number one, b1voyages.com. Okay, so let's see. Dylan says, check the Q&A. Who's your main and best estate planning guide to structure multiple trusts? Uh, you know what? We've brought in estate planning people. If you go to drboycelift.com, Dr. Boyce Lift, it stands for Legacy Investors for Tomorrow. drboycelift.com. We've had several experts that have come in and spoken. You can grab one of those people. They're all good with estate planning. A name doesn't come to mind right now, but there are tons of people that have come through. There's some people actually in this room that can do estate planning as well. So go to drboycelift.com and look through the speakers that we've had there. And we have a speaker that comes in every month to do estate planning. And based on your level of complexity, it might determine what type of people that you can work with. You might need to work with a lawyer that's a specialist in whatever kind of situation you're trying to create. Okay, so let's see here. Let's see. Thank you. I did watch you with a gentleman. I can't find his info. Yeah, it should be right there on the website. All right, and also, one thing I want to mention, don't forget, is I'm going to create a list of stocks for those of you that are doing stock market investing with us. But also, I encourage you this week, make sure that your wealth is your habit. You should buy stock once a week, maybe even every other day if you want to. The same way you spend money on fast food or you spend money at the mall. Make investing as much of a part of your financial budget as everything else. Did white people attend the summit? No, we didn't have any white people there, Lori. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A section so I can see it. If you put it in the chat, I may or may not see it, but I'll answer your question, Lori. Did white people attend the summit? There were no white people there, but we did have a white guy that came to, we had a stock options summit, an SOS in Los Angeles, and there was a white guy there, and he was very nice, and and it's really interesting how racially divided America is. I've never said white people can't come to our events. I just don't do that. I ain't got time to sit around mad at people and hating on people and all. I just don't do that. That's not fun for me. And but white people stay away. They just don't come. And it's not like I'm begging them to come. I'm not chasing them down and saying, please, please. I don't do that either. But if they come in, I'm not gonna say, "Well, what are you doing here, white boy? You don't belong right down here in these parts, boy. What you doing down here, boy?" I don't do that. And so he came in, and he was from Chicago, and his father was really good friends with Father Michael Flager, and that's I said, "Oh, so you one of those white guys? Okay, so you down because Father Michael Flager is a bad boy. He's down for black people more than a lot of black people are. He's right there on the south side of Chicago. He has put his life on the line for black people. I mean, this man is extraordinary. He's very good friends with Louis Farrakhan. And anyway, but yeah, and it turned out that the white guy who was there, I didn't know this, but my wife told me. She said, he's a really famous sociologist. He wrote a really famous book, and I didn't know it. He was extremely humble. He didn't walk in flexing and bragging like, "Hey, do you know who I am?" He did none of that. He was very respectful of the space, and I enjoyed his company, and I liked the guy a lot. So, yeah. So don't be scared to bring your white wife or your white husband or whatever. Like I just don't judge all that. I only person's behavior I judge is my own. And I kind of feel like we ain't got time for that. We're trying to do something. We're trying to build something here. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. Oh wait, there are questions here. I'm sorry, I missed your questions Q&A. Okay. When it's time to vote, do you vote on all of your shares? No, I don't vote on any of them, Lisa, to be honest with you. Restarted Acorns and Robinhood recently. What are some suggestions and recommendations to those companies? Let's see here. Make sure you get on the text list. I send out lists of stocks that I like all the time. I made that list of Warren Buffett's besties, where I made a list of stocks that I believe Warren Buffett would love based on his criteria. And in fact, I can try to grab the list and put it in here. But make sure you're on the text list. If you're not on the text list for this class, pull out your phone, text the word morning, MORNING, to the phone number 87948. Text morning to 87948, and I'll send you stuff. I send you stuff every day. And the stuff that helps you can grab it. If not, that's fine. But if you don't open a text for a while, then you'll be removed from the list because my goal is not to harass you at all. I'm not here to push anybody to do anything. I just want to share for those who find the information helpful or who would like support in certain economic areas. So I'll try to find the Warren Buffett list. I can't find it. It's somewhere around here. But I'll find it and I'll put the link in the chat if you want to take a look. Those are great companies to start with. And the thing about stock market investing, remember we have stock market class on Tuesdays. So you can bring your stock market class or questions to class. Oh, wait, I'm looking at the list. Okay, it looks like the list hasn't been distributed yet. So let me just go ahead and put it into the chat right now. So yeah, if you want to go grab those stocks, feel free. So let me put it in the chat. And then you guys can do what you want to do with it. And those who are watching this as a recording, come to class live because that way you can get everything that I share live. All right, so here is, and we meet every morning at 10 a.m. So there's the link to Warren Buffett Besties. And so you can feel free to take a look at those stocks to get started. All right, so let's see here. Alita, I want to build wealth from a fixed income. Is that possible? Yes, of course. Where do you recommend I start? Well, first thing, Alita, is number one, investing small amounts consistently over time makes a big difference. It helps if you're investing for at least 5 to 10 years. 20 years is even better. If you're talking about building massive amounts of wealth in 2 or 3 months or 6 months, the only way to do that really is if you find some way to start some sort of business that generates a significant amount of cash flow. And the thing that people don't understand is that it doesn't mean you have to build a whole massive organization. It might be one product, one thing you learn how to sell that other people want. and that can change your financial situation quite dramatically. So depending on where you are, the wealth building process would consist of two things: stocks and flows. Stocks meaning not stock market, stocks are a stock like a stock yard or the stock room or stocked up for the winter, storing your nuts for the winter. Like so, a stock meaning that you're just a pile of assets that you own that can protect you in a rainy day. And the flow is cash flow, some ability to get money that will pay your bills. You can get your flow from the stock, meaning that there are thousands of you in here right now that I know for a fact are taking your stock and you're selling options on your stock, and some of you are generating as much as $10,000 a week. I know that because I've talked to you, I've met with you. That's one way to do it, but also if you get a flow from another source, like you have a business that's generating some cash flow and you're stocking some of that and you're building wealth in the back, then that's financial security. That's what that looks like. And then you throw in diversification. If you have multiple income earners in the same space, that's diversification. If you have different assets, that's diversification. If you have money coming from different sources, multiple streams of income, that's diversification. All these things should be taught early. That should be taught to kids. When I was here, I talked to a 14-year-old named Lauren. A lot of people brought their children. You should bring your children to stuff like this. I mean, stop thinking that your wealth building training should just be for the parents. Bring your kids. It's a family thing. It's a family affair. It's just like if you have a family reunion, you don't leave the kids at home during a family reunion, you bring them. So financial family reunions matter, right? Maybe we should do that. The financial family reunion. Bring the babies because the babies need to hear this too. They need to sort of be oriented to this. So I talked to Lauren, who's 14 years old, and I was explaining all these things to Lauren. She's a talented young lady. She wants to be a Hollywood actress and singer, dancer, go to Broadway and all that. And we talked all extensively about the business of the industry and what drives the industry. It's money. And money is something you must understand if you want to do well in that industry and how to get it ethically so that you don't end up on somebody's casting couch. And also we talked about stock market investing, spending, all that. Kids should learn this early. And 14, people think, like when I talked to Lauren, because she came up on stage, people get excited. They're like, "Oh, that's so great. She's talking about this already at the age of 14." I'm not, I don't think that's early, actually. I used to think 14 was early. I used to think that was super young. But when I compare that to what you could potentially do, I'm like, oh, that's a drop in the bucket. I mean, starting at 14, you're 4 years away from being 18. I mean, literally, this girl's 4 years away from being able to date Shannon Sharp if she wanted to. So that's not 14 ain't as young as you think. It's young. It's younger than 34 for sure. But 14, I'm like, no, why don't we get started? Why don't we start them off in investing at negative 10 years old? And you would say, well, what does that mean? Well, how can you start investing at negative 10 years old? Well, that doesn't mean you have to do it. If you understand wealth, you know that wealth is a team sport. So the same way that I had nothing to do with creating myself or giving birth to myself or feeding myself, well, so it was somebody else's job. And if somebody else had not done their job, then I would not be here. I would not exist, right? So your wealth should be born because somebody else said, "Oh, it's my job to make sure that my unborn kids are going to be good." Why? Well, because I was sitting with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Boyce told me, and he has a PhD in finance, so he might know what he's talking about. He told me that the more time you add to the wealth building process, the more wealth you're going to have. The more time you have, the ingredient is not the money. It ain't about the money. It ain't about the good job. It ain't about the good credit. It's about the time. So if the more time I can add to the wealth building process for that child, the better off they're going to be. So if I'm 17 and I know that I'm planning to have a kid maybe by 27 or 28, and I start investing now, and I also understand another thing that Boyce has talked about, which is that wealth investing for my children isn't just me sacrificing myself for on their behalf. It's me investing for me because we're connected. If I'm building for you, I'm building for myself. Wealth is like a car. We gave our daughter a car, but we drove that car for 10 years. We're going to leave our kids a house, but we've lived in that house. Do you understand? So just because they benefit doesn't mean we're not benefiting. That's a scarcity mentality. Are you following me? Do you get what I'm saying? You were raised on a scarcity mentality. You were raised like a damn slave. They taught you to think that if I'm doing something for you, then I must be taking something away from me. If I sacrifice for my kids, and that means I got to suffer right now. You'd be amazed how many people won't even sacrifice for their children. Because you really want to sacrifice for your kids. Our kids wouldn't be out here destitute in the street, struggling, broke, having a hard time right now. But our kids are out here suffering. They're suffering. They're suffering because the parents didn't even have the energy to go to a PTA meeting. But daddy's got time to figure out, how many yards the Dallas Cowboys had yesterday. And mama's got time to go to the mall or to a Beyonce concert or go on a Tom Joyner cruise or whatever it is. So again, I'm not judging, but maybe I am. But I'm going to say this: wealth is a team sport. Time is your number one ingredient. The more time you add to the process, the easier it is to build wealth. But time, the use of time requires vision. Vision means being able to see in the future. If you are living in 2025 and you can see, you can visualize the year 2060, then you can manifest whatever you want. It's very easy to build anything I want in 2060 if I start in 2025. But most people in 2025 aren't thinking about the year 2060. In fact, they're assuming that they may be dead by then, so they don't care. But remember, there were people in 1975 who were thinking about the year 2025. Who would those people be? I don't know. Maybe the Rockefellers. Who else? Maybe the people that gentrified your grandma's neighborhood. They were thinking about 2025 back in the 1970s. So do you have the vision? Are you going to do it or are you not going to do it? So if I want this, if I have these unborn kids that are going to be born 10 years old, or unborn grandkids. I got a baby. My baby's 2. My grandkids aren't going to be here for another 20 years, but I have vision. So I'm thinking the unborn grandkids in 40 years, 50 years, they're going to have economic consciousness. They're going to need money. What do we do right now so that the unborn grandkids that are going to be the children of my 2-year-old are going to be in good shape? Most people don't think about that. I bet you scour the whole internet, you will not find one single person talking about this. This comes from 30 years of obsessing over this topic. So here's what you do. I am 17. I know I'm going to have a child in 10 years. I want my child to be wealthy. I'm investing now on my behalf because when my child is 20 or 30 years old, I want them to be really successful. That means I got 30 to 40 years to build whatever amount of money. If I invest small amounts now, it's very easy to make that child into a millionaire, multimillionaire by the time they're 25 or 30. You understand? Look at the future. So when I talked to Lauren, the 14-year-old, we talked about her unborn kids. I said, let's talk about you, but let's talk about the other yous that are going to exist in the future. Let's really visualize it. Let's imagine this so that we can understand what our job is, right? And we had older people in the room. I said, how many of y'all remember being 14 like it was yesterday? And then one day you wake up and everybody's calling you unc and ma'am, and then and then your knees start hurting, your back starts hurting, you can't do the stuff you used to do, right? So that's how quickly life goes by. And for some reason, because people don't visualize that, it kind of sneaks up on them. And when it sneaks up on them, they're like, dang, I'm not prepared. Gosh, I'm 72. I'm retiring next year. I don't have any money saved for retirement. I'm not making fun of anybody because there are probably some people in this room that are in that situation. I'm not making fun of you. I'm simply saying, how much commitment are you making to ensure that that people learn from your mistake? Or are we simply just committed to keeping our generational curses alive and making sure that our wealth is dead? Because we'll keep a curse alive. We'll hold on to trauma like it's our baby mama. Like we will maintain the pain, but I don't know how hard we're willing to fight for the liberation. But to get to the liberation, you have to confront the pain. You have to say no more, not happening, no more. And you have to also care about yourself enough to just commit to that. So no more, no more, no more being broke, no more struggling, no more kissing masses ass, no more feeling destitute, no more horrible experiences, no more struggle, no more slavery, no more. We don't do that's not what our family that's why, for example, in the economic elevation circle, I want every family to have a logo, right? And I want you to tell me who are you? What do you represent? Right? What are you defending? What are you building? What are you protecting? And do you believe in that thing? Are you willing to pour into that thing? Are you willing to give life to that thing, to manifest? So anyway, let me answer more of your questions here. By the way, if you want to get some of the stuff, information we have for kids, summer's coming. We have flashcards, workbooks, digital programs for kids. We have a whole Black business school for children in the Black business school. So if you want to get some of that stuff, text the word youth to the number 87948. So get on your phone, text youth to 87948, and I'll send you some information. All right. So let's see. Herman says, what's the first step one should grow the wealth that you have if it's only intellectual property? Build credit to gain capital, or should you go another way? Um, well, intellectual property is valuable, but it has to be invested in, right? Like a good idea is just an idea. That's all it is. It's not, there's nothing real about it yet. It's important. It's necessary. But also remember AI can come up with ideas too. So a good idea is not the same as a good business. So what I would do to challenge yourself is if you have a good idea, ask yourself in a year from now, how many hundreds or thousands of hours have you put into making that idea into a reality? When you put, say, 2,000 hours, you can even keep track. Give yourself a little time clock. I mean, you got a time clock at your job, so get a time clock for your life. Get a time clock for your family business. Mark down, and I say this not to be facetious. I do this because that's what I do. I keep track. I've done this since I was 19 years old. Since I was 19 years old, I've kept track of the number of hours I spend working on the things that matter to me. I used to keep track of how many hours I spent studying because I said, well, if I study 60 hours a week, I'm probably going to do well in my classes. That was my measuring stick. I just said, because I said, if people can go to work 60 hours a week, why can't I study 60 hours a week? And that's what I did. I didn't always reach the goal. Sometimes I'd only hit 30, but I was still killing all the other students because all these other students were kids. My goal was to be a grown man. I was raised by a grown man. I wanted to be one. I didn't want to be no kid for life. I didn't want to be a slave. I didn't want to be a sucker. I didn't want to be kicked around by a white man. I didn't want to be a victim. I just don't, that's not fun. It's very stressful to be a victim. Okay. So keep track, document that. So once you've invested 2,000 hours into your intellectual property and breathed life into it, then that will become more real. I told the young men there were some three young guys. They were brothers. They were 17, 19, and 21, I think. And I told them, I said, well, one thing you probably you're not aware of is that you're already millionaires. And they say, what are you talking about? I said, do you love each other? And they say, yeah. I said, are you loyal to each other? They say, yeah. I said, there we go. You have $1 million worth of value right there. They call that human capital, relationship capital. The question is, can you use that to manifest that into what you want it to be? Like, do you take that seriously? Because if you don't take it seriously, if you don't see it, then it doesn't exist. If you can't see what I see, then it doesn't matter that I saw it because you don't see it. So it's going to be wasted. But if you see it, if you believe me, and you really practice seeing it, and then you invest in it, then you'll notice it becomes more and more real. Like I said, when you come to a conference like this, I said, look, you're a man. I said, are you men? They said, yeah. I said, okay, you're a grown man. So if you come to the conference and you introduce yourself to people and you act like a kid, then you know what's going to happen? People are going to treat you like a kid. They're gonna be like, oh, you're just a kid. You're just 21. You got the rest of your life to do this stuff, and one day you'll be more serious, and they'll do that. They'll treat you like a kid. I said, but if you show up as a man and you are dressed in a suit and you have a business and you say, here's my business card, this is what I do, then people are gonna go, okay, okay, well, I see you now. You know what I mean? They're gonna respond to you differently and they're gonna start treating you accordingly. Because what you got to understand is, remember, Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook when he was 19 years old. I think he was probably a multimillionaire by maybe 21. He was a billionaire, I'm guessing, before 30, maybe when it's 25, 26, 27, something like that. So stop putting limitations on the kids. Stop acting like a 20-year-old black man is supposed to be a buffoon or supposed to be a goofball clown. That's what they see on the internet. They see guys, they have these channels and they're like, hey, what's up, bro? Yeah, right. And maybe for them, for the one clown, the clown gets rich being a clown, but the clown, the people that imitating the clown aren't getting rich off that. So I personally think that we should consider how seriously do we take ourselves? How seriously do our children take themselves? All right, next question. Is this a good time to purchase a home? I found one for 200K, 6% in Las Vegas. Yeah, Malik, I think now is always a good time to buy property if it's good property in a good location. If it's going to benefit you and work for you, then I think so. Yeah, 200,000 is not a bad price. What's the difference between prime and the options class? There's two major options. programs. We have Prime and Coin. Prime stands for Passive Recurring Income Machine. Coin stands for Certified Options Income Network. Prime focuses on two things, income and consistency. So the goal of Prime is to find stocks that we can purchase and sell the options on and generate a consistent stream of income. The course time is spent uh, sort of securing the assets, figuring out which ones work best, uh, securing the positions, laying out the what I call the fast cash action plans and the moneymaker grid. Also, figuring out how to manage the risk by sort of dealing with changing market conditions, right? It's just like starting a little business. Instead of going to start a bakery where you got to go and, bake cookies and sell cookies all day, it's like you're acquiring shares of stock. And the beauty of it is that this is income that you can make that's quite good, that where you don't have to do any work. It's perfectly liquid. You can sell it anytime, and the cash flow is quite solid. So if you compare selling options to something like owning real estate, it's no comparison. My wife did, I mentioned it, my wife did not enjoy being a landlord, neither did I. And so what I said to her was, I said, why don't we just sell the property and buy some shares of Meta stock, and we could sell the options. And the amount that we make from selling the options on the Meta stock is far higher than what we made from the tenant, and it comes with far fewer headaches. The tenant, she paid about 80% of the time, but the other 20% of the time we were stressed out trying to figure out when she was going to pay the rent. There were repairs we had to make. Stuff would break down. We had to spend money to get that fixed, and you got to do it fast, or they legally cannot pay you rent, or they can decide not to pay you because you didn't do the repair. And also, when we wanted to sell the property, it took 6 weeks, not just of time sort of making the deal go through and finding a buyer for the property, but also just the time I spent away from the things I really wanted to do in order to get this done. So I did not enjoy it. I said, this is not a fun way to make money. And I encourage you to not think that making money has to be something that's very labor intensive and time intensive. You don't have to spend your whole day working for the rest of your life. I didn't really think this through until I got tired of working all the time. But if you're able to build a capital base, there's no rule saying that you ever have to work for anybody. The only reason you had to work for somebody is because nobody left you anything. If somebody had left you some assets and a little bit of skill on what to do with them, like let's say that your great grandma had started buying stock in 1945, and by now those little penny stocks she was buying Coca-Cola and Nike or whatever and Ford in the 1970s or whatever, now it's worth, $1 million or $2 million. You don't have to work anymore. You can literally make more money than a medical doctor without even going to college, but it would require discipline in terms of not falling for all the distractions that exist in the world. The problem is when people get a lot of money, this is why a lot of athletes and entertainers can't hold on to their money, is that once you get all that money, you just become a magnet for all these people and all these things that that distract you. You have a society that tells you to go shopping nonstop and buy a bunch of worthless crap from European companies that don't care about you. You got guys that spend lots of money on women like Shannon Sharp, gonna give $20 million to some OnlyFans model because he can't control his penis. You have bad business deals that people get you involved in. A lot of athletes go broke because of that too. They get involved in investing in their cousin's goofy business that their cousin has never run. He has no experience running this business, but because you're loyal since from the time you were little kids, you gave him $1 million because at that time money wasn't nothing but a thing. And then later on, when you really need that million, you can't get it back. So there's lots of distractions that happen when you get money. So you have to be able to ignore those and have the discipline to focus on capital preservation. If you don't have the discipline to preserve your freedom, then you're going to end up having to be a slave. That's really important to understand. Like if you don't have, I had that talk with someone at the Economic Elevation Summit this week, and I was sitting at dinner at lunch, and I said, yeah, I said, they were talking about how hard it is to hire relatives for their business. And they said, we have people in our family, we pay them good money, and some of them we can't make them do the work. Yeah, some people aren't mature enough for freedom. I said, you pay them in advance, you give them, a guaranteed salary. I said, some people will literally stop working, or they'll always show up with an excuse for not doing the job. And I said, unfortunately, for some people, because they don't have the discipline to work even when they don't have to, they get put in situations where they have to work. Because when master's cracking that whip and forcing you to do something, people get right in line. Or you look at, unfortunately, a lot of people that are in prison. Very few people are more disciplined than a prison inmate because they don't let you have any freedom. You lost your right to freedom because you behaved in a way that was undisciplined when you did have freedom. So freedom requires discipline, commitment to protecting the freedom. So that means if you're an entrepreneur, you protect and defend your freedom by getting your ass up and working every day, even when you don't have to. Think about this. I don't have to get up at 10 o'clock every single morning to talk to you guys. I don't have to do that. I can sleep in. I know I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and every now and then I do. But you'll never see me sleeping in every day. I work as hard as if I had to do it because I don't want to be in a position where I'm forced to do it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if you want to be a wealth builder or have wealth or maintain wealth, discipline is an important part of that process. Um, in fact, at kittyboss.com is where I did that training, how to turn your child into a millionaire. And one part of that process is the KID model, which stands for knowledge, investment, and discipline. And one of the bones I have to pick with the culture when they are always marketing so-called black culture to black people, which is not really black culture, it's really BET corporate culture, is it does not typically promote disciplined behavior. It promotes undisciplined victim behavior where you behave in a way that's not disciplined. You're sloppy, you're eating the wrong food, you're using, run around getting high, run around chasing random women, just doing stupid stuff. And then when something bad happens to you, you get to come back and say, I was a victim. So that person, a person who thinks that way, in my view, is typically not going to be granted freedom by the universe. You're going to be put into a situation where you're going to be forced to do things. So that's my theory on that. All right, so let's see here. Lisa says, I looked up the ticker symbol ETF, but I couldn't find. Yeah, ETF is not the ticker. Lisa, look up SPY, Sierra Papa Yankee. Sierra Papa Yankee, that's the S&P 500 ETF. That's a great place to start. If you want to look at some more stuff, go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. Go to blackwealthmasterplan.com and you'll find the $5 a day plan there. All right. Let's see. Welcome back, Dr. Boyce. So you're still meeting up monthly for the B1 Inner Circle. Also, yeah. So Sharif, send an email to support@theblackbusinessschool.com and talk to them about that, and they can give you information on when we're going to meet again. That's a great point. Also, you just offer the black card with program and course. Yeah, definitely for you, Sharif. Email support@theblackbusinessschool.com. Tell them that I said to contact me about like what you're doing and what you're working on, what you'd like to have access to. For those of you that have been, really involved in the stuff that we're doing, and all of you, it's really an open invitation for all of you. I want to make sure that we can help you in any way that you need help. And that means if that's special discounts or something like that, we can do that for you. We just want to do what we can to be supportive in your effort to educate yourselves and your family and to create what you want to create. And really, at the end of the day, I want to see more money in your pocket. That's something that makes me very happy. So if you are making more money, if you can send your story as well, that really helps us because like I might text you out a link and say, tell your black business stories here and what I mean, or your black wealth story here. I'd like to hear like a paragraph or two of something that you're implementing in your family that others can learn from, or something that you've been doing that's really working. When I came to the Economic Elevation Summit, I met a lot of you who had been doing like the $5 a day plan since 2017 that had insane amounts of money in your portfolio or had just bought real estate or your business is doing well. That stuff makes me happy. In fact, when I met the brother who has a PhD in computer science, I was really honored that he said, I got my PhD because of you. And I guess I must be getting old because I've heard that a few times and it makes me excited because when I started in my 30s, my goal was to change what it means to be a black scholar in America. I felt that too many scholars are sitting in their offices writing research papers that nobody's ever going to read. And I said, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of energy. That's a waste of our best and brightest. We should all be focused, collectively on solving the problems that exist in our community. our energy should be pointed in that direction. And our energy gets diverted because somebody's paying us to divert our energy. And I just think we have to fix that, which also might mean developing economic systems that incentivize us to turn inward as opposed to outward. But that requires a certain understanding of how systems work. A lot of times when you talk about not being invited to have a seat at the table, the reason that you're not invited to have a seat at the table is because nobody ever talked to you about how to build a table. So if you build a table, then you don't have to ask for seats anymore. You don't have to beg for nothing. People will be begging you. So I want to build tables. That's what I want. I want to own tables. I want us to have tables. And I don't think that sitting at other people's tables has ever worked for us because all of us can't sit at the same damn table. They ain't got room for all of us. They got room for one of us. And then what that becomes is symbolism, and symbolism is not the same as substance. That is not the same as building an economy. One Negro with a job is not the same as building a black-owned industry. So stop. So let's throw the symbolism out. Congratulate the tokens. Congratulate the symbolic Negroes who got that one opportunity. Good for them. I don't hate them. Nothing against them. But the thing that you want in order for an economy to be successful is you have to have something that builds infrastructure for the masses. You have to have something that is also under the control of us, where we make the final say in how that's going to go, so that then we're not sort of feeling bad every time they tear a black man down or they destroy a black man in the media or a black woman or whatever. I mean, all these things happen because these individuals have been put in a place where they're surrounded and isolated and under the control of an alternative system. And we admire those individuals because 1,000 of us knocked on the door. They let one of us in, and we're sort of looking at the one person they let in as some sort of a leader for the community, but they're not leaders. They got lucky and they have a little talent, but at the end of the day, they're incredibly vulnerable because there's a big difference between having real power versus having proximity to power. Like a Negro with a fancy job, it looks good and it looks fly, but I want to know the black people who can write, a $400,000 check to support a little league baseball team or to support an HBCU. In fact, I think about it like this. I'm gonna say this and I'm done. I was talking to someone about some parts of the west side of Chicago, which are abandoned, dilapidated, unsupported, and just broken, like very violent, very, destroyed neighborhoods. And I said, I want you to process this for a minute. I said, most of us, the reason that this problem does not get fixed is because most of us don't have the capacity to truly fix the problem. We don't have the time, nor do we have the money. Why? Well, because most of us get up and we go to work for white people, and we can't spend time in our own neighborhood in order to fix the issue. Number two, we don't have the skill sets to fix the issue. If they say, okay, we need to build more houses and plumbing and infrastructure, how many of you are trained in any of that? How many of us are trained in the skills of building, even a business, even entrepreneurship? Those are not skills that you're given because you're trained to go work for other people. You're trained to go work for white folks. That's what they need you to do. And then number three, we don't have the capital base to get that done. People with jobs have a very hard time coming up with $100 million that might be needed to buy up a city block and to make it clean and safe and better. But here's the deal. Pay attention now. Listen to this. If you had one black person who was, say, a Mark Zuckerberg, who was worth $200 billion, Mark Zuckerberg could go to the worst neighborhood of Chicago. He could go to O Block, buy the whole damn block, hire a whole team to help clean up the whole area, and literally elevate the average income and the life expectancy of everybody in that entire neighborhood. Because he could write a $10 million, $50 million, $100 million check to get that done. Do you understand? He could go to an HBCU. He could say, I really like this school. I'm going to adopt this school. Okay, you're struggling with your finances, Tennessee State. All right, then I'm going to endow you with $100 million that you're going to use to build a state-of-the-art football stadium with NIL deals so you can get great athletes. And on top of that, we're going to, add to your science program, your business school, etc. Right? Do you understand? Like you need that big boy money. That's my point. You need those big boy resources, big girl resources. And in order for you to compete in big boy, big girl economics, you got to put on your big boy, big girl panties. You do. Begging for jobs is not your big boy, big girl panties. Waiting for white people is not your big boy, big girl panties. Sort of not having the skill set, only knowing how to be an employee and never knowing how to be the boss, never knowing how to actually build anything. Though that's not big boy, big girl panties. You have to understand the high levels of finance. You have to understand the high levels of business development, the high levels of what it means to protect intellectual property, the high levels of what it means to team build, the high levels of what it means to have economic infrastructure. I mean, you start with training your own kids. I mean, that we can do that. That's easy. We got AI, we got digital, we got Zoom. I built this whole institution, the Black Business School, on the internet, right? And it was great because I didn't have to go buy a whole building because that's expensive. I didn't have the money for a building, but I knew how to get online and run ads and get people to kind of know what I was trying to do. I was just hoping people would listen. In the beginning, wasn't nobody listening. This is before Breakfast Club and all that. Before that, I would go on urban radio stations. They did not want to hear about Black wealth because they did not believe Black people cared anything about their own economic security. They believed that it was talking over their heads, that all they want to hear about are jobs and Gucci belts and nonsense and what their favorite rapper was doing. And the community has evolved quite a bit since then. Now it's time for the next step in that evolution. The next step in that evolution really means talking about economic infrastructure from the top down. Like, what does it mean to really train a young Black man, a young Black woman to be able to control their economic destiny? I can guarantee you that 90% of what they learned in school needs to be thrown out and replaced by things like entrepreneurship, replaced with things like skill sets, right? Trades, plumbing, carpentry, everything else. Those are the skills that build a nation. Replaced with things like investing, building a capital base. A capital base is more important than a college degree. A capital base gives you assets you can use to make moves. And when you're able to make moves, here's what you got to understand too, is when you can make moves, you're not swayed and affected by stupid things like whether or not somebody called you the N-word. I don't give a damn. There could be a chorus of white people sitting outside serenading me and saying, nigga, 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 nigga. I don't care. It would not matter to me. Why? Well, because what you think about me doesn't matter. I'm doing work. I'm getting things done. I'm doing real things. Words are just words. I don't give a damn what you have to say about me. I don't care how you feel about me. When you can really move and make decisions and really make an impact, it doesn't, what people say ain't gonna affect you. It's not going to affect you. It really, unless you allow it to. Right? So what I'm saying to you is that if you want to understand why millions of our kids are not educated when they come out of high school, it's our fault. It's because we haven't taken control of the situation. If you want to understand why millions of us are sweating and scared to death because they cut the DEI programs, it's because we made ourselves vulnerable by depending on institutions that were always able to starve us. That if you let someone else feed you, then you're also letting them have the right to starve you. If you want to understand why problems exist and they just sit there until a white person comes along and fixes them, it's because we've never really truly committed to obtaining the skill set necessary to do those things. If you want your family's life to be better, that's something that you're going to have to do. And fortunately for you, you have what you need to do it. You just have to minimize the distractions and stop wasting your time with the things that are not working. So that's it. I'm done talking. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. And I will text you later. Make sure you're on the text list for this class. So you can text the word morning to the phone number 87948. Text morning to 87948. And if you want to join the Economic Elevation Circle, we'll do a meeting in about a week. I'll send you a message. Go to economicelevationcircle.com. The goal is strategy, accountability, and legacy. That's what we're doing. We're building legacy in that space. And you can use the code word morning, and that'll take 40% off the monthly fee. So that'll make it affordable for anybody who wants to join. And I'll leave that up there for the weekend. All right. So economicelevationcircle.com. Code word is morning. All right. Happy Mother's Day to everybody. God bless.